What I like to do every day, if you ask me what do you want to do today, Ken, with your life? I would say podcast about interesting things. That's what I would say. And if I've done a podcast throughout the day where I don't talk like a technical programming teacher, when I don't talk like a complete autistic savant, but just like a normal person having a conversation, that's what I consider a podcast. So I need to do more of those. And because I also want to get some work done at the same time, people send me money to do work on things like baseball. I'm going to podcast and it's going to be baseball centric because we're going to make an update to baseball today. But we're going to take a different approach to the video because I know I hear y'all. I hear y'all who are like, Ken, what in the hell am I looking at? Like, you're going to make me make sense of this on my phone right now? I can't, like, what the? You're right. Very, very difficult to communicate what's going on here. I can't see it all. I can't see anything. That's not true. I can see some stuff, but I can't see very well. So I also am not reading these numbers all the time. I'm looking at colors, I'm looking at ideas, and I tried to take the idea of what are solid, awesome statistics to use when gauging the outcomes of baseball games because it's such a player centric game. It's like if you have a really good dominating pitcher, you know that team has got a really good chance of winning because that pitcher will go 6, 7 innings and hardly give up any runs. Some pitchers are like that. Other pitchers that have immense ERAs, apparently like Carlos Carrasco today, those pitchers, you can assume the other team's going to score some runs, and apparently the other team did score some runs. So what I'm going to talk about as I do some work here, I'm not going to talk about the work specifically. I'm going to talk in theory about what makes this enjoyable doing this, and also what makes it unhealthy to do it too much, for sure. And that's why I'm stopping on April 10th with baseball and not planning on picking it up. That means that there's no more baseball videos coming after that because I handed off to a guy named Carlos, who's a super big baseball fan, good programmer, loves working with the file, does a lot of his own things in here, and tries to come up with even better predictions. He beat my version yesterday for sure. But the point is you can have a copy by purchasing one from me, and you can get on the daily email list with Carlos, who will send you multiple emails per day. He'll send you so many emails. You're like, Carlos, don't send me so many emails, man. Like I already made my bet. I don't need 3 updates. But he will do. But the reason why he's doing that, there's a reason why he's got to send so many updates to this file, because lineups get confirmed at different times of day. What we're looking at right now, and I understand why he sends so many emails. It's okay. Like if you want to know baseball and you want to be into this, you want to get his emails all the time. He won't send you a copy of his file, but he'll send you the snapshot of this stuff. Send you this snapshot, and then he'll send you the day pivot, browse pivot, essentially snapshot, which look like it's having a good day so far at 9-5. But that Angels game is not over. It's bottom of the 10th, 12-10. So this game is not over yet. This could still potentially go the way of the Angels right now. So, because they got 2 guys on. Anyway, point is let's get back to podcasting. So I picked this thing up in the middle of the day after, doing normal family Easter things, getting out and seeing everybody and, doing that the way that's supposed to be done and getting back for the day. I haven't made a wager on anything but somebody's, Brian, hey, thank you, Brian, sent me like $150 today. Like, thank you for getting me addicted to betting on baseball. I hate you. And I'm like, yep, I know the feeling. I hate me too sometimes. I hate that you kind of, if you're a numbers guy or a girl, but you're not a girl, but if you're a numbers guy, you're poring over this and you're like, oh, wow, look at how this thing is really, really good at doing stuff. And has a bunch of different combinations. Like, how can I not get a look at this if you care at all about baseball? So anyway, we're podcasting. So let's back up. So I put my ideas about what makes a good prediction in this baseball file. And it gets better the more current and accurate your stats are and your rosters and everything else. And what you're looking at is a version that I set up early in the morning before any of today's stats were in here and confirmed lineups are not in here. So we're going off of old incorrect information. That old incorrect information in here is looks like it's going 9-5 so far. Assuming the Angels don't come back. If the Angels come back, that's another win down here. See if that happens. Anyway, so it does pretty good without updating. Well, now I'm just going to update and I'm going to talk about baseball and I'm going to talk about gambling in general as I do it because it's too boring to talk about this. But we're going to update everything for the day. And like I said, we're going to talk about other stuff. So we're going to talk about is, well, what is going on here? How do you want to approach betting, given that you're not betting like a normal human being? Meaning a normal human being does not have a super extensive computer program projecting exact scores of games based on exact pitchers' ERA and correct team stats and players playing in the game. I mean, you have such an advantage over a normal human being trying to handicap all this. Because even though you're not watching all these games, it's like you are, as you can see, with weird stuff going on here with, I think we picked off some underdogs in this list, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I mean, we picked off 1, 2, 3 of those top 4 underdogs, and Tampa Bay absolutely crushing it like they were, like you would imagine they would. They're apparently a good team this year. So anyway, what do you do with this information now that you have it? And well, it makes sense that you should wager something in a smart way. And so the question always becomes, well, how do you wager intelligently? Like, what kind of bankroll strategy do you want to run? These are really difficult questions. He's on Minnesota, right? Yeah. These are really, really tough questions when it comes to like how to manage bankroll. And I don't know if I'm definitely not qualified to give you great advice about that because I'm not good at that. I'm super impulsive. I don't do this and then wait till the games start and get accurate information and do this right. I don't do that. I don't even wager on it anymore because I feel as though I can't do it optimally without spending a lot of time watching the games. And I just want to do other things with my life. That's the thing about this is if you want to make this your job, wagering on sports, I think you absolutely can make it your job betting intelligently. But how do you determine what's a premium thing to bet on and how much do you bet? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. I try to give you simple things like saying if you bet on every one of these teams to win in order, you get this profit here. And you can see it's profitable today, even losing the Angels game. They got the bases loaded and 1 out. Oh, they got bases loaded and 2 out. Oof, pivotal. Wonder who's up. That's almost watchable. Anyway, it's looking profitable. It's also looking profitable above a 10% margin, which is really awesome because that's what I would normally have the computer program tell you to do is pick games over 10% margin. In this case, you had a ton of underdogs and you go 4-1 in these top underdogs, only losing Detroit, and Detroit apparently lost by 3. I don't know why it picked Detroit, but it did. So that's without updating. Let's continue to update though. Like there's more to update. And it might get better, it might get worse. I've seen so many times where I go to update with the current day stats and it makes it worse than what was already in there. But you got to do it because the more current and more accurate your stats are, the better this thing's going to be. So assuming that you either put in this effort yourself every day to keep this thing as current as you want, and you dedicate as much time as you want to it, which could be a lot. If you want to make that dedication because maybe you've got time, like I can remember when I used to be working jobs, oh my gosh, especially manual labor. Boy, is this meant for manual labor. I mean, you don't have to get in the car and go drive to a casino or somewhere to make a physical bet. That's an era of the past. You're sitting there on your phone, digging a ditch, building a French drain, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Did the Mets just start to get hit early? I'm like, oh yeah, the algorithm says that the Marlins are supposed to win this game. Like, let me load up right now before the line gets too bad. Like you can start to just, as you're listening to the game on your phone in your back pocket, right? So it's a different world of wagering. Now, I've experienced overkill because, I guess I will overdo anything I see potential in until I make it bad. That's my MO in life. Too much of a good thing is bad, and I make sure I get to bad to know how much is too much is bad. So I would say that I overdo this and I can't do this, which is why I put a deadline of April 10th. I was like, guys, use Carlos will do that legwork every day. I can't. I got to move on to something else. You're going to see me doing videos about something else because we have taxes due in a week. We've got taxes to do. I have a whole discussion of tax videos I want to do with my Excel 1040 scrap application. Anyway, let's keep moving on. We're not done updating yet. But let's get back to, so now there's this crazy availability of wagering anywhere where your state and your phone, you get your phone, it's got the geolocation. It knows that you are making a bet, but it knows where you are, and everything seems to be working fine. It's funny, I was driving all over the country for a good part of the last several years, and I watched it get legal in different states, and I'd be making a bet in Iowa, and then I'd be looking to see if it cashed in Nebraska where you couldn't cash it out or something. I mean, the world has been getting crazy with this, but the point is it's becoming more and more available. So, well, what do you do? And I think what you have to do is, man, the only advice I feel appropriately like giving you about betting is looking for premium picks where the algorithm agrees on a lot is usually the way to go. Like in almost all of the algorithms, the way they're set up, the order of them, stuff that's on the top that has higher margins just flat out wins more in all sports, whether it be college basketball or NBA or NFL, although NFL is a little weird, or I mean, hockey's kind of tough to say that for, but in general, like stuff, when we order these things in higher margins, top down, like that's supposed to mean something. And so you want to be looking at these lists top down, which means if I were to tell you things to wager on, I would say, well, you don't want to lose games. So you want everything about your bet because you have so much availability. Your options are endless. There are more types of bets out there than are imaginable at this point. You can bet on a female gymnast to break a fingernail at this point. You can bet on everything because there's such a huge market for it, and people are sitting around doing yard work, get the earbuds in, listening to see if Tampa Bay is going to score another run. And you care if they get to 11 or if they get to 7. Like these things matter because people are betting over and unders all the time. Like the world has changed where the betting market is persistently everywhere. It's everywhere. All right, our labs look good. Yeah, all right. We just updated everything, by the way, for those who are paying attention to what I was doing. So that means that if we refresh, let's do this. Let's go to our look for the day. So at combo number 148, which is the one I told everybody to play, the one I talked about last night, we ended up getting this. All right. I'm going to snag this, copy. You can paste this special as an image down here. One of these, picture. So now we've got a copy of our yesterday's version that we can look at when we compare, because now I'm going to press refresh and the one from yesterday is going to be gone. So we refresh, and instead of 9 and 5, we're 8 and 6. But we moved Detroit further down. See this? So your top 4 win. Because as I was saying, margin matters, right? So to finish that thought about what do you bet on, I'm saying things like bet on everything above 10% margin. But what I should be really saying is bet the most on Miami, bet the next most on Cleveland, bet the next most on Arizona, and all the way down in that order. I mean, I could write a formula that distributes out like $100 over all these teams that would like tell you how much to bet on each one, because it would say wow, we have a 33% Miami on top of this list. Is that what I put yesterday? Yeah, they were on there yesterday. I told you to take Miami, Cleveland, Arizona. So Arizona moved up to third. Wow. Look at this. See how it got better? It put Arizona over the Dodgers. I almost spilled coffee, but it didn't. It's not coffee anyway. It's elderberry tea. So yeah, Arizona. Wow. This is hitting top 3 underdogs and Tampa Bay covering, and then it puts Detroit on here. And this Atlanta game hasn't even happened yet. So you're 6-2 potential. Sorry, you're 7-1 potential. Right now, you're 6-1 and waiting on one. And this has the Angels. And what was the final score of that Angels game? The Angels lost 12-11. They came back to get one, but still lost. And the Padres are now up 1-0. So if it finished like this, you would have this. But you're winning up top, which is the point. Now, that's just with combination 148. So here's the fun thing. And we're going to actually sit through this macro while I do more podcasting, because we're doing a podcast. Is we're going to run this macro and see what would have done the best today, even though, it's not fully complete. This will take like 5 minutes. So get ready to podcast. So let's finish our thought about sports betting, because I want to provide information for everyone that I believe in and that I feel good about, having done this and having won some money and also having lost more money. Basically, I am down. I'm not good at betting. I am impulsive. I don't listen to the algorithm. I try to fight it because it's my nature to fight this robot I built and to be proven wrong. It's almost like I love being proved wrong. I think that's the psychology behind it. I love when it proves me wrong, because it proves that the programming is so much smarter. I'll talk out of both sides of my mouth a lot. I'll say, don't do this, but don't listen to the algorithm here. This is, blah. And I'll say that because I'm thinking about all the inputs that went into it, and I'm trying to make a judgment about whether or not I've included the full breadth and scope of my idea that I'm trying to transmit through the numbers, to make the numbers and the math do this logic for us. This is what it is doing right now, if it's working properly, which is it is running 500 combinations of different variables up here in this colored column. It's not changing because I think it's kind of frozen on this view. Hopefully that's the issue. We'll be able to check. But I think it's just frozen like that because this part isn't frozen. Down here, if you look at column C as it keeps popping up every few seconds, if you want to avoid epilepsy, don't look at the screen. But it's up at number common of 112, 113, 114. It's going through the 499 actually full combinations that there are, and it's dumping them into this cube data sheet, and it's creating a database basically. And then we're going to browse that database looking at all these different combinations and see how each one of them individually did based on the more accurate current day stats that I just brought into the file. And so even, having it run automatically still takes, it takes about a second each one. It feels like 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. I didn't put a delay on it, but that's about as fast as it's willing to go doing the calculation it's doing. But how awesome is this? You can just sit, have some coffee instead of like doing this copy paste action yourself manually, which is what I would have been doing before. I simply wouldn't do this exercise if it couldn't be automated so easily. So anyway, let's get back to how we're going to bet, right? Well, I do feel confident telling you that picking teams that are on the top of the list margin-wise and prorating your bets on the higher up they are, but also taking account of what the line is and how do you want to bet lines. And here's where I'm not as confident about telling you how much to bet and how to do this, is I don't quite understand how to change my decision, like change my thought process about whether or not or how I should wager on a game, depending on what the line offered is. Meaning, if we had Tampa Bay at the top of the list today, and Tampa Bay was at minus 260. The algorithm believes that's a very strong pick Tampa Bay. Yeah, Tampa Bay is a very strong pick over Oakland. However, are you just supposed to bet them to win? It doesn't seem like that's the answer because minus 260 doesn't pay a lot. You bet $100 and you only get back like $3 or something like that at minus 260 plus your 100 back. So it doesn't sound like it pays. Well, what do you do then? Do you take Tampa Bay minus like 2.5 runs, 3.5 runs because you really think they're going to crush it? Do you take them over in their run total because they're on the road? There's more of a chance they'll get up 9 times to bat and that they'll hit up more runs than they're supposed to. How do you do that? I don't know the answer to that. I know that Tampa Bay's supposed to win, and the higher the margin is, the more they're supposed to win by. But it's also baseball, and I think the answer was really, really obvious today because it was such an easy board to look at today. Meaning the top three of the top 4 games were underdogs. So that makes obvious sense that if the algorithm is telling you a team is going to win, it's at the top of the list margin-wise, then you should probably bet it, especially if it's an underdog, because you're getting a great line anyway. So those are no-brainers. What to do with the situation when your team is a favorite and how big of a favorite they are and how bad the line is, that I don't necessarily know how to handle that. So, and I also don't know to tell you like how to craft parlays. I think straight bets are the best way to do it. I mean, you can't go wrong with the advice of straight bets on high margin teams with good lines are a great idea every day in the long run. Meaning if you've got, you got $1,000 bankroll and you're betting $50 or $100 on a bet every day, you're betting like 5 or 10% of your bankroll on every wager. Then on a day like today, it probably would have said you don't really take Tampa Bay because they're minus 260, but you take the other 3 or even 4 underdogs. I think you take Detroit too because they were a 4th underdog up there. So you probably take 4 of those underdogs at like $100 each, and you end up winning 3 of them and losing 1 with Detroit. So you're going to make, you would have wagered $400 there, and you're going to be getting back over 600 something. 600 and change, depending on how big of maybe even 700. So you're almost doubling your money, essentially hitting 3 out of those 4. But that's because those lines were good. It is not going to be like that every day. And I don't know how to tell you how far down the list to take those underdogs. At what margin is the cutoff? At what point is a team, favored but not favored enough by the algorithm to make it a significant advantage for them? And that's why I try to say, take games with margins above 10%. And I'm like, that's usually a nice cutoff, but I don't really know yet because we're adjusting variables and variable distributions all the time. So I'm just more looking at the order of what's happening and the total for the day. And that's, that's the best way to do that. And what's cool is we're almost done here at 463, I think. It's going to stop 499. And when we get that, we're going to be able to refresh and we're going to be able to see if any of these combinations did better than the one that I told you all to play of 148. And I'm sure something's going to be better, but we're going to find out. And then we're going to look at how many were better. And we're going to look at what variables were significant in our combo sheet to tell us what was relevant today. Because then what I like to do is I like to write one myself at the end of a day like this. And after you write it yourself, you can see how good you made it and how, especially on the day. So let's see here. So that just ran that whole thing and looks like it probably worked. Sometimes it even takes a second. There we go. All right. So guess what? Let's see. We're trying to beat. Here's what we're trying to beat. Trying to beat 8 and 7. We're definitely going to beat 8 and 7. And it's going to tell us what the combo was after we refresh this pivot in the TQ pivot sheet. We have a 12er. Oh my goodness. So we've got a few with 12. 233. All right. So now you go to the combo sheet now and you sort this today's wins largest to smallest. And you get to see what these was. Ooh, we don't have labels on any of these. Wowza. Okay. This did not like lineup factor. How about that? Wow. Oh my goodness. I don't like to see that. It loved ERA. It loved whip. It was okay with innings per start per pitcher. BABIP, not so much today. Average runs per game it liked. That's why. I don't know. These two categories are related to team stats for the year. I like it when these are red. I don't want to use these as much. I actually want to move to a different stat. We're going to add some new stats in this thing before the end here. I will. I'm not happy with these, although I need them. Maybe we'll add them. I don't know. I like to keep them at a minimal. Maybe we'll talk about theory now. So now we're going to talk about theory. So what happened here is it's not over yet, but it's almost over. This is 4-9 best. That's what all these ones that won 12. Now let's take a look for a good representative sample of one of these. I'd like to take the one with more of a lineup factor. See what I'm looking at here? So I'm looking at these chunks, this chunk right here. And I'm like, well, okay, where was the column greenish or yellowish? Like this is a really good number when it's this color. It's trying to get to green, meaning it's trying to be a big number. Red is a bad number, and basically it's at 1% is what we use the line. It means we hardly use the lineup factor at all. However, we did use it with 17% in this combination. And so that makes me want to use this one or this one. I'll use this one because this is a more even distribution, interestingly enough. So can you kind of understand why I'm going to choose this one as the one I want to look at? I want one that does include lineup factor because I want that variable to be statistically significant because I know it is already, because it involves the exact players playing in lineup. It has to be relevant. If it's not relevant, then we shouldn't be gathering lineups. And I know we should be gathering lineups because it's better. So that's why I'm going to use 112, because it has lineup factor at 17%. And none of the other ones do except this one. This one also does. But I'm going to use this one because it looks like a more even yellowish distribution in a band, which means it put the proper percentage on stuff. And I want to know why. So let's do that. It's number 112. 112 goes right here. And before I glance at that, let's refresh the day pivot. And it goes 12-3. And it loses the Atlanta game, which is not over yet. And it loses this one by 1 run, 12-11. And it loses Washington to Colorado. Yet it only has 2 underdogs up here, being Miami and Cleveland. Interesting. So it moves Detroit to where? It puts Boston ahead of Detroit this way. Oh, wow. Wow, this is a much better combination. I'm actually going to call this thing current awesome because it is. I haven't looked at the other ones, but it is. And I want this one to be the one that we use right now. Like one current awesome. That, whatever. Current awesome 4-9. The reason why is it brought lineup factor in there, and it also yielded underdogs on top. It yielded, look at the margins of victory. Like, where do you lose? This game's not over yet. This game just started. I almost want to like remove that out of here. Don't even look at that one yet. And the Angels barely lose 12-11, right? So this is incredible. As you can see, it's profitable even without catching Atlanta coming back. But it is right here is trouble, but that's not over yet. Anyway, this is an awesome combination. This is 3% innings per start, so almost nothing on innings per start, 18% on whip, 18% on ERA. Look at that even split between the two of them. Lineup factor 17% are almost the same amount. 11% bullpen, 12% BABIP, 12% average runs, and 6% average runs allowed. Very interesting combination. Now, what did it do with the scores? Because we can view it like this. It said 6-4 in a game. Sorry, it said 4-3 in a game that went 6-4, pretty close. It said 6-5 game went 4-1, so it overestimated here. Has this game almost perfect, unbelievable, at 10-2, essentially. It goes 11-0. Then Yankees over Baltimore, 5-1-ish, 5-2 goes 5-3. Great. White Sox, it has more runs than happened in this game for some reason, but still had Pittsburgh. This is pretty good. 7-4, 7-6, right? Wow. I mean, if you want to see this as a number, without the decimal to make it easier to read right now, we can just get rid of it like that. This makes it a little easier to read by rounding. So let's get back. So we're doing really incredible. Look at this. Boy, it doesn't stop. Hold on. Seattle, Cleveland. Yeah, this is pretty good, right? How about this? 8-3 goes 7-2 on an underdog. I mean, everybody, little slow clap for the algorithm right there on this percentage. That's not what we had, but what we had was pretty similar even with the other percentage that we used. Oh, by the way, where is that other percentage that we used? Where is 148? 148 is way down on the list. The number I gave you to use did so much worse than a lot of other percentages today. That's what that says. Look how many did better. Look how many did better. So, yeah. Yeah, and this one's really awesome, I think. Very intrigued to see what happens there. Now, let's go back. Let's keep looking at our scores for a second. Great. 5-3 goes 6-1. I mean, pretty good. Houston, Minnesota had a tie that then goes the way of Houston. So it didn't really have Houston barely winning this game, but they did. 4-3 goes 8-2. So there were more runs than we projected there. Unbelievable. No, not unbelievable. Colorado wins. So so what happened was we didn't account for the Washington bullpen just a little bit. And Colorado does make the comeback probably, right? But that's still a pretty awesome score when you think about it right there. Kansas City and San Francisco, we had this wrong. It was much lower scoring. This one's much higher scoring and we lose. It has Arizona over the Dodgers, right? They score more runs than we thought, though. And then this game was still going on. So, all right, then. As I'm going to be leaving you on April 10th for baseball to be on your own or to work with Carlos to get stuff. I'll put a copy on my site. You can still buy a copy, but I'm not promising I'm going to update it every day. I promise I'll send it out if you buy it for the $100. And I'll probably update it for the day if you're going to pay the $100 for it. But sometimes I might be on the run and I might just send you a copy that is from, however many last days ago that it was that I did it, because I don't sell one of these every day. It's too technical of a thing, but that's what I'm putting up there. Anybody that wants it and pays me for it, that'll generate me doing it as well. So point is I am excited to podcast and talk about the learning process and making it fun. I'm not excited to give you great advice about sports betting and trying to get everyone to make a fortune off of this, because I wasn't able to do it. I was too impulsive and wasn't able to listen. So I'm not a good person to take advice there. I am a good person to listen to advice about constructing this algorithm, understanding how it works, getting it to work and do things you want it to do. And in this case, having a macro sort out all the distributions so that we can easily find this distribution, just filters to the top and it colorizes itself appropriately. So I can be like, wow, what was this? And then you get to see a day like this. And you can't guarantee from day to day what's going to happen, but you can certainly say that when a distribution is more diverse like this and equally weighted among different things and it's working, that's phenomenal. Because the best thing you can have is a bunch of different independent variables that are significant in value all working together. It's like another level of confirmation that your pick is correct. Like if not only is your pitcher's ERA really good, but also your lineup factor is really stacked, and also the average runs allowed by the opponent or something is really, really bad or something like that. All that stuff's getting figured in. And the opponent's ERA of who's pitching, all that stuff's getting rolled together. So when this is even, that is good. That is good. It means that we're getting a nice balanced distribution of the stats. So I'll tell everybody to go with 112 tomorrow. And when I get up on Monday, I don't know when the games are on Monday, but when I get up on Monday, I'm going to 2:10. We've got to start between the White Sox and the Twins. Before noonish, 1 o'clock, I'll try to prepare what's available, even though the lineups will not be confirmed. And just to get it started and to try to get everybody on their way to watching the tutorial videos so that you can understand how to run with this thing, because I'm going to move on to other stuff. I'm just there's only so yeah, I'll leave you with this in podcast form here, which is to avoid making this your life, you have to set boundaries with it. And my boundaries became, I can't do this every day for everybody else, not wager on it, not pay attention, because I'm doing you a disservice by not paying attention to the sport when I'm trying to code the algorithm at the same time. Because I lose out on any insight. I could be watching the games and thinking about any new stats I could bring in. Like, I'm not watching any of these games. There's an occasion at night when I'll throw on like the ninth inning of a baseball game or something, like the only Angels game that's still on for the night or something, and I'll catch Ohtani like getting a double. Like that's cool stuff to see like for 5 minutes, but I'm glad I don't have money on it and I'm not doing it because it became my life and I couldn't focus on anything else. Now, how do you avoid doing that? I would say, because this is a daily file and you can just pick it up one day, it's not dependent on the history of the season or anything. You can just pick it up one day, go through the tutorial videos, understand all the different sheets to update, like I just kind of did, right? Update everything, refresh it, feel confident that you've got something. You start to feel confident after you review it every day and you see whether or not it worked or not. And then you start understanding that you can look for better combinations and find them. I mean, I am not doing analysis on this that came up with this. The macro did. The macro came up with these random numbers also. Like, I didn't do any of this. I was like, ChatGPT, tell me how to run a macro that does this. ChatGPT was like, here, do this. Write this formula and then exit. I was like, okay. Pasted that sucker, made a little tweak for proper like reference, done and done. And so it gives us this. So you can take this and you can focus on the teams at the top and do your thing when you want to. It can be a one-day thing. So I would recommend going one day at a time. And Monday, the 10th, is the last day I'm planning on doing baseball this season and doing videos about it. I'm ready to do other stuff and have to. So you can continue it on. I'm giving you the tools, and I'll probably even lower the price of the one-day algorithm later in the season here as I would just want to get it out and I'm not doing any more work on it and I'm comfortable with it. You will be able to continue on with it. So if you want to do it, I would say consider doing it one day at a time. If you're going to wager any amount of money, assume it is money you are going to lose. Assume you're going to have zero after every wager you make. That is the only way not to be disappointed with your gambling, is to expect that. Now, I live expecting that, and maybe that's why I'm not a winner when it comes to betting, because I don't think about it properly. So maybe you shouldn't listen to me when it comes to my betting advice. But you should listen to me that this is going to be the way to find the best order of games that does things like this, which is absolutely annihilate the underdogs. Wow. 2, 3, 4, 5 of 6 underdogs with this distribution. Unbelievable. Barely losing Washington, barely losing Angels. This is unbelievable. What's the margins of victory here? That's some crazy stuff. Oh man, it's crazy. It's 4-0 Padres, by the way. All right. I think we've podcasted enough. But I wanted to communicate that as baseball is winding down for me, even though I know it's only 10 days into the season. And you guys are still going to have questions about adjusting lineup factors and adjusting to 2023 stats all the time. When do you do that? I say do it right now. We keep using ERA and WHIP, and they seem to be working. And anybody we've put in for 2023 had win, right? Kirby worked. Carrasco worked. John Gray worked. Everybody worked. And Dylan Dodd not working. Dylan Dodd, maybe we need to go with his single A stats, right? It's like single A or double A. Yeah, I think double A gives them a little more than 2023. Yeah. So we should kind of go back to his double A because they're down 4-0. But that's revisionist history right there. But it does show that, a guy who came up from the minors had a good first start. He may get rocked eventually. And today it looks like he's having worse luck if he's the one in there giving up those runs. So that's the Baseball and Ken Braverman podcast for Easter. Happy Easter, everybody. And I will be back with a baseball video tomorrow, and then I'm not going to be back with baseball videos. I'm going to do another one about MLS soccer. I've got more tax video. I know taxes are like due in a week. We got to talk about that. File's kind of done. And Lord knows what else is coming down the pike. All right. So good luck, everybody. I hope your picks won today. If you're going to get involved with sports betting and you're going to get involved with this, set limitations for yourself. It can be done one day at a time. I do have good advice there. You can set aside one day at a time on this one if you want to. You could be like, oh, my big day is Saturday when I'm going to do this. So I'm going to get this thing ready Friday night and get it going and get it almost accurate so that I can get ready for Saturday because Saturday is my day. That's a good idea. If you want to do it every night, man, expect a lot of anger and frustration and exhaustion. And I couldn't do it. I'm so much happier when I'm not in that zone, when I'm not betting. So, when I'm not doing baseball every day. If you have a commitment to do this every day, as you see, Carlos will be doing this every day. It is exhausting. And I want to tell him, calm down on the email simply because I want him to not overdo it. He's talked about getting burnt out doing this before. I have obviously been burnt out doing this before. I got so burnt out doing this every year I've done it that by the middle of the summer, I am like, why? Why am I pulling over in the middle of Oklahoma at dawn to update baseball for people, charging my laptop at like a gas station restaurant in northern Oklahoma? Why am I doing that in the Panhandle? And I'm like, why? I'm like, I'm not even betting. Like, I don't care. Like, and the answer is I see the value in aggregating all this information and making it so coherent and so cool that you end up doing days like this. That I want to do it for all sports and stuff, but there has to be, the limits for me are, it was April 10th. I was like, I'll be able to do this for a couple of weeks. And then I'm going to curse the sky every time I see a baseball after that for the rest of the summer. So I'm handing it off to Carlos, who's apparently going to be doing it anyway. So you can get this from him if you need it, but you can also sporadically do it yourself and do it for a day and get some advanced information for the day, or do it for a couple of days, do it for a weekend or whatever. It's your part-time job on the weekend. I understand that. But don't overdo it because I've overdone it and I'm liking not doing it at all because I overdid it too much. So that's how it's healthy for me, and teaching how this algorithm works and teaching the thought process and going over what we're really doing here, which is using artificial intelligence and an aggregation of current stats correctly applied to a model to kick things out that are not random. It's not random that it said Miami was going to win 8-3 or whatever. We were combination 148. It said they were going to win 8-1 and they won 7-2. And it put it, if you look at what that combination did at 8 and 7, right? Is it still wins the top 4 games. Like it's still win 8 and 7, but it still wins at the top. That's the point. So it's trying to tell you that, yeah, you should be betting on me if I'm at the top of this list. All right. Good luck, everyone. Your life picks be winning.